Karen had my clearly marked police patrol vehicle towed right out of my own driveway, claiming it violated HOA rules as an unauthorized commercial vehicle. But when my police chief showed up and explained that she had just arranged a removal of a city-owned law enforcement vehicle, she learned the hard way that towing a squad car is not an HOA infraction. It is felony grand theft auto. My name is Walter, and I am a patrol officer with the Richmond, Virginia Police Department. I have served for 11 years, working a variety of shifts and assignments throughout the city. Like many officers, I am authorized to take my assigned patrol vehicle home at the end of my shift. Department policy allows this because it improves emergency response times and increases visible police presence in residential neighborhoods. What Karen did not understand when she ordered my patrol car towed was that she had just caused a theft of city property that was clearly identified as a law enforcement vehicle, an action that carries serious criminal consequences. I live in Riverside Gardens, a subdivision built in 2010 on the west side of Richmond. The neighborhood is a mix of families, retirees, and working professionals. The HOA handles basic maintenance and generally stays out of residents' daily lives. I have lived there for 6 years. My neighbors know that I am a police officer, and no one has ever complained about my patrol vehicle being parked in my driveway. The car is a fully marked Richmond police cruiser, white with blue stripes, a light bar on top, the city seal on the doors, and the word police clearly visible from multiple angles. There is absolutely no mistaking it for anything else. For 6 years, this had never been a problem. That changed when Karen moved in 4 houses down from me about 3 months ago. She had perfectly styled blonde hair and immediately began voicing complaints about nearly everything in the neighborhood. Too many kids playing outside, dogs barking, people parking boats or work vehicles on their property. Eventually, her attention locked onto my patrol car. 2 weeks after she moved in, I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. It read that commercial vehicles were not allowed in driveways under HOA rules and that I needed to park the vehicle elsewhere. I ignored it. Police patrol vehicles are not commercial vehicles. They are government emergency vehicles. And even if commercial vehicles were restricted, law enforcement vehicles are typically exempt under both HOA guidelines and state law. A week later, there was another note. This one said, "Final warning. Remove commercial vehicle or it will be towed." At that point, I contacted the HOA property manager, a man named Dennis. To clear things up, I told him I was receiving notes about my patrol car and asked if there was an issue. Dennis told me there was no problem from the HOA's perspective. He explained that a new resident had been complaining, but the management company had already informed her that police vehicles were not subject to commercial vehicle restrictions. He said I was fine to continue parking as I always had. I thanked him and assumed that would be the end of it. Karen had been told directly by the HOA that my vehicle was allowed. I expected her to accept that and move on. I was completely wrong. I was working a night shift that ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. On Thursday morning, I came home exhausted and parked my patrol car in my driveway, like I always do. I went inside, showered, and went straight to bed. When I woke up around 3 o'clock in the afternoon and looked out the window, my patrol car was gone. At first, I thought maybe the department had recalled it for maintenance or reassignment, but there was no note, no call, and no notification of any kind. I immediately contacted my sergeant and asked if the department had picked up my unit. He told me no and asked what was going on. I explained that the vehicle was missing. He told me that was a serious problem and said he would make some calls. About 5 minutes later, my sergeant called me back and told me my patrol vehicle had been towed by Richmond Recovery Towing at 11:30 that morning and was being held at their impound lot on Midlothian Turnpike. I asked who authorized the tow. He told me their records showed the request came from an HOA representative for a parking violation. My blood pressure spiked. The HOA had already been told that my vehicle was allowed. Someone had ordered a marked police cruiser towed without authority. My sergeant instructed me to go to the impound lot immediately to confirm the vehicle was secure and told me the chief had already been notified because this was theft of city property. I drove to the impound lot in my personal vehicle. A heavy-set man in his 50s, the lot manager, met me at the gate and asked how he could help. I identified myself as Officer Walter Hayes with Richmond PD and told him they had my patrol vehicle, which had been towed from my residence without authorization. He said they received a call from an HOA president requesting removal of a commercial vehicle, and that they executed the tow based on that request. I asked him if they verified whether the HOA had the authority to tow a police vehicle. He admitted they do not typically verify HOA authority, and that if an HOA calls for a tow, they usually carry it out. I told him that vehicle was city property, clearly marked as a police car, and that towing it without proper authorization was illegal. He looked visibly uncomfortable and said they could release the vehicle once I paid the towing and storage fees. I told him I was not paying any fees for an unauthorized tow of city property, and that the vehicle would be released immediately or they would be facing theft charges. He said he needed to call his owner. I told him to call whoever he needed to, but that patrol car was leaving the lot right then with no payment. After a brief phone call explaining the situation, he was apparently instructed to release the vehicle immediately. He handed me the keys and had an employee drive the cruiser to the gate. I inspected it carefully and found scratches on the front bumper from the tow equipment and minor undercarriage damage consistent with improper towing. I documented everything with photos and then drove the patrol car back home. I parked in my driveway and called my sergeant to report that the vehicle had been recovered but sustained minor damage. He told me the chief wanted to see me in his office the next morning at 9 o'clock and to bring all documentation. The following morning, I met with Chief Daniels and Captain Morrison and gave a full account of the unauthorized tow, the notes Karen had left, and the HOA management company's confirmation that police vehicles were permitted. Chief Daniels listened closely, his expression serious as I finished explaining what had happened. Chief Daniels' expression grew harder as he listened. Someone had ordered a marked police vehicle towed from an officer's private residence without authorization. That was not a misunderstanding or a paperwork issue. That was theft of city property. I confirmed that, yes, sir, the towing company claimed they were contacted by an HOA president. Chief Daniels asked who this HOA president was. I told him her name was Karen Stevens and that she lived at 1847 Riverside Gardens Drive. The chief looked over at Captain Morrison and told him he wanted a full investigation. He stated clearly that this woman had caused the theft of a police vehicle and that he wanted her charged appropriately. Captain Morrison acknowledged the order and immediately assigned Detective Lawrence to handle the case. Detective Lawrence began by reviewing the towing company's records. Those records showed that Karen had personally called the company, identified herself as the HOA president, and claimed that a commercial vehicle was illegally parked in violation of HOA rules. The towing company had not verified her authority, nor had they confirmed the type of vehicle involved. They simply carried out the tow based solely on her statements. Detective Lawrence also obtained a formal statement from Dennis at the HOA management company. Dennis confirmed that Karen had been explicitly told that police vehicles were exempt from parking restrictions and that she had no authority to order the vehicle towed. 3 days later, Detective Lawrence and another officer went to Karen's house and knocked on her door. I was not present at the time, as I was working my regular shift, but I received a detailed report afterward. Karen answered the door, and Detective Lawrence identified himself as a detective with the Richmond Police Department. He told her he needed to speak with her regarding a vehicle tow that occurred on Thursday. Karen asked what it was about. Detective Lawrence told her she had ordered the tow of a police patrol vehicle from Officer Hayes' residence and asked if that was correct. Karen responded that she ordered the tow of a commercial vehicle that was violating HOA rules. Detective Lawrence asked if she was aware that the vehicle was a marked police car. Karen said it was parked in a residential driveway and that commercial vehicles were not allowed. Detective Lawrence explained that police vehicles are not commercial vehicles, but government emergency vehicles that are specifically exempt from those restrictions. He reminded her that the HOA rules reference commercial vehicles only and that she had been informed by the HOA management company that police vehicles were permitted. He told her she had also been informed that she had no authority to order the vehicle towed and that she had done so anyway. Karen insisted she was the HOA president and claimed she had the authority to enforce the rules. Detective Lawrence told her she did not have that authority and that she had caused a city-owned police vehicle to be removed without authorization. He explained that under Virginia law, this constituted theft. Karen's face reportedly went pale. She asked how it could be theft when she had only had it towed. Detective Lawrence explained that she caused city property to be taken and held at an impound lot, and that the vehicle sustained damage during the unauthorized tow. He cited Virginia Code Section February 18, 95, explaining that theft of property valued over $1,000 is grand larceny. A police patrol vehicle, he told her, is worth approximately $40,000. Karen said she did not steal anything, and that she only called a towing company. Detective Lawrence explained that knowingly causing the theft of city property without authority made her criminally liable. Karen was arrested and charged with grand larceny of city property because the value exceeded $1,000 and the property was a government vehicle. The charge was a felony carrying a potential sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Her attorney attempted to argue that she believed she had HOA authority, but the evidence showed she had been explicitly told by the HOA management company that she had no such authority and that police vehicles were exempt. The prosecutor took an aggressive stance, stating that Karen knowingly ordered the theft of a city police vehicle after being told she could not do so. He emphasized that she caused damage to the vehicle and interfered with a police officer's ability to perform his duties, arguing that her actions were intentional rather than accidental. Karen eventually accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of unauthorized use of property and was sentenced to 12 months in jail, with 6 months suspended. She was placed on 2 years of supervised probation and ordered to pay restitution totaling $2,500 for vehicle damage and towing costs incurred by the city. She was also fined $5,000 and required to complete 200 hours of community service. The HOA board removed her as president immediately following her arrest. They issued a formal apology to me and to the police department, clarifying that Karen had acted without authority and directly against instructions from HOA management. A retired firefighter named Thomas was elected as the new HOA president. He came to my house personally to apologize. He told me he was deeply sorry for what had happened and that Karen had been completely out of line. He assured me that the board fully supported law enforcement officers parking their patrol vehicles at their residences. I thanked him for coming by and for addressing the situation properly. Karen ultimately served 4 months of her sentence before being released on probation. She put her house on the market almost immediately and moved out of Richmond altogether. I later heard that she relocated to North Carolina. The incident became well known within the Richmond Police Department. Several officers mentioned they had heard about it and expressed their support. My chief later used the situation as an example during a community meeting, explaining the importance of respecting law enforcement and understanding that patrol vehicles parked in neighborhoods are meant to enhance public safety. The towing company was also investigated. Although they were not criminally charged, the city removed them from the approved towing rotation for 6 months as a penalty for failing to verify authority before towing a clearly marked police vehicle. I still live in Riverside Gardens and still park my patrol car in my driveway every day. The new neighbors who bought Karen's house introduced themselves shortly after moving in. The husband is a retired Navy veteran who told me he appreciates having a police officer in the neighborhood. Several neighbors have thanked me for my service and said they feel safer knowing a marked patrol car is regularly visible nearby. My patrol vehicle still bears minor scars from the unauthorized tow, small scratches and undercarriage damage, but they serve as a reminder that some people's desire to control their surroundings blinds them to obvious reality. Towing a police car is not HOA enforcement. It is a serious crime. If you're a law enforcement officer who has faced HOA harassment for parking a take-home vehicle at home, or if you have witnessed someone's overreach lead to criminal charges, share your story in the comments. Send it to officers who face pushback over patrol vehicles, and remind them that most communities support law enforcement presence. And subscribe for more stories about people who learn that some property cannot be towed without consequences. Sometimes a vehicle you order removed turns out to be government property protected by law, and a simple phone call becomes evidence of a felony.